Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into a specific source you sent us. It's a statement from the office of Kamala Harris.
That's right. And our goal here is really to, unpack the main points in this single document, understand the perspective it's offering.
Exactly. It tackles, well, a couple of key situations.
The deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles, for one.
Right. And also recent ICE raids happening nationally. The statement offers a particular take on these.
It definitely presents a viewpoint connecting these events and assigning certain motivations.
Okay, so it covers Los Angeles, which the statement points out is her home, but links that local situation to these broader national actions by ICE.
Yeah, it's definitely framing them together, not as isolated incidents.
And the core argument seems to be why these things are happening, right? The statement has a strong view on the intent behind them.
Precisely. It contrasts the reasons given, like public safety, with, well, a different interpretation.
Okay, let's get into it. The statement kicks off pretty strongly using the word appalled regarding the LA events.
It does. And right away, it labels the National Guard deployment there, not as something protective,
But
but as a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. That's quite pointed language. Provoke chaos.
that phrasing really stands out. And it doesn't just focus on LA, does it? It brings in other actions.
No, it immediately connects it. It mentions the ICE raids, both in Southern California and across the country.
So the strategy seems to be linking these actions, which might seem separate on the surface.
Exactly. The statement explicitly says both things. The Guard in LA, the ICE raids are, and this is a direct quote, part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division.
Wow. Okay, so it's presenting them as like two parts of the same playbook,
Yeah.
a deliberate strategy.
That's the argument being made. It's weaving these government actions into one narrative,
Yeah.
claiming they're not just reactive responses, but calculated political moves.
Right. Moves designed to achieve a specific effect.
Yes, and the statement spells out that effect. It claims this administration's actions are not about public safety, they're about stoking fear.
Stoking fear. And does it say who is meant to be afraid?
It does. It specifies fear of a community demanding dignity and due process. So it paints this picture of, malicious intent versus legitimate public demands.
That's a very clear interpretation of motive offered in the statement. Then the focus seems to shift a bit towards the public reaction.
Yeah, it moves to talking about protest. It calls protest a powerful tool essential in the fight for justice. So protest is framed very positively here.
And it tries to back this up.
It does, yeah. It mentions that other officials like the LAPD, the mayor, the governor have apparently acknowledged that the demonstrations in LA were overwhelmingly peaceful.
Ah, so it's contrasting the administration's alleged actions with the protesters' actions.
That's the key contrast being built. You have these actions described as calculated and fear-mongering on one side.
And on the other side,
Overwhelmingly peaceful protesters who are just exercising, a fundamental right. It sets up these opposing forces.
and how does this statement wrap up?
It finishes by voicing support for the people, standing up to protect our most fundamental rights and freedoms.
Okay, so it brings it back to these big ideas: rights, freedom, resistance.
Exactly. It uses the specific events, LA and the ICE raids, to make a broader point about principles and perceived injustice.
All right, so let's recap the key takeaways just from this statement's perspective. It uses pretty strong charged language.
Definitely. Terms like dangerous escalation, provoke chaos, cruel, calculated agenda.
Right. And it frames the National Guard deployment and the ICE raids not as safety measures, but as part of that agenda, one aimed at spreading fear and division.
Then it contrasts that motive with the positive portrayal of protest as an essential, powerful tool for justice.
And it emphasizes that these protests, certainly in LA, according to the officials cited, have been overwhelmingly peaceful.
Yes. And finally, it connects all of this back to the idea of protecting fundamental rights and freedoms against what it sees as an administration acting in bad faith.
That seems to capture the essence of the perspective in this particular document.
I think so.
So, thinking about this statement's really strong focus on, a cruel, calculated agenda, spreading panic and division and these fundamental rights and freedoms, what does this kind of framing suggest about how such statements function? What role do they play in political communication and shaping public discussion?